Yeah. Well, there is a big wild card in all this. So you can do all this, but at the end of the day, you have to have enough inventory, right? So that's always something. So I have a client. We launched them at the beginning of this year, at the beginning of 2023, January, middle of January, and we're recording this in November. So it's almost coming up to a year, and they just ran out of inventory halfway through. After launch, they had no idea it was going to be this successful. And by the way, the price point on their item it varies. They have variations, but the lowest price is $450 and the highest is $700. So we're getting very good takeoffs, very good ROAS. Everything is good. And they ran out of inventory. So it's all this stuff. It has to be factored into how much inventory demand there will be. So therefore you have to be prepared for it, of course, 3-4 months ahead of time. So this is nothing to do with what we were going to talk about, but it's always a good idea to keep it in perspective, because all these things are important, and usually people gravitate towards, okay, how can I get more sales? How can I get more conversion? And you're giving us the methodology, but even if you are 100% successful with that, you've got no inventory to sell, you're dead in the water, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a relevant consideration and it's an important one, because, as any seller can tell you, running out of inventory, while it's not the worst problem to run into, it's a problem and it really affects your growth and your trajectory. And, this is very much a media focused exercise, but that doesn't mean that you can't layer metrics like sufficiency and things like that into it, because, if you're evaluating your media opportunities and you see that there's a huge incremental opportunity for you to tap into, it's important to make sure that you're going to be able to support
Right.
that media initiative with your inventory.
Right.
So there's no end to the amount of layering that you can do on top of this in order to extend its value, but that's a big one. Yeah, it's really important to make sure that if you're going to drive those sales, you better be able to ship out the products that come along with those sales.
Yeah. I mean, I always say this. The biggest challenge in selling online is not sales. Biggest challenge is inventory. I should say inventory management. It's a loaded concept. To me, it's a loaded concept because inventory management does not mean just looking at numbers. Inventory management means being able to project how much demand there will be, and that's a huge challenge. And then being able to stay on top of your inventory movements, how many pieces available at Amazon, how many pieces available in your 3PL, how many pieces already on the PO. And so that requires systems and finance, right? So how much inventory is needed? So therefore, are you going to be able to maintain this? Because usually you are, especially once you determine the opportunity size and then what it's going to cost you and how long it's going to take to get there. Now you're talking about time, and of course your ROAS or takeoffs or whatever is not going to be perfect right from the get-go. So you're going to overspend and then it's going to optimize. So factoring all those things into account, it's going to be months before you see a penny from the operation, right? So that factors into the finance aspect of it. So it's a big challenge, and usually it comes right at the tail end of dealing with sales. So that's why I say sales, you will figure it out. You can throw some money at it, experiment different things, and then after a while, if you know what you're doing or you're working with good people, they'll figure it out. They'll get you the return, and then they'll start driving sales, and bang, you run out of inventory, you lose the ranks, you lose everything else. So that's why It's important.